Уважаемые дамы и господа, я искренне рад возможности выступить на таком представительном форуме, деловом инвестиционном саммите ASEAN, встретиться с бизнесменами, с политиками, экспертами, поговорить о том, как будет выглядеть экономика региона в ближайшие годы. Тема этого делового саммита ASEAN – развитие инфраструктуры для строительства будущего, на мой взгляд, очень точно отражает особенности настоящего момента. Именно сейчас формируются контуры будущей глобальной экономики, экономики новых идей, новых технологий, новых материалов, которая, конечно, потребует и новой глобальной инфраструктуры, и новых механизмов регулирования. Несмотря на бурное развитие электронной коммерции, цифровых технологий, международное регулирование мировой торговли по-прежнему существует в прежних рамках, в прежней парадигме 40-летней давности, сохраняется и нестабильность сырьевых рынков, растет корпоративная и государственная задолженность, все чаще используются и методы так называемого нового протекционизма, когда экономические санкции становятся инструментом конкурентной борьбы. Страны Азиатско-Тихоокеанского региона, кроме этого, сталкиваются и со специфическими вызовами. Многие ресурсы экономического роста, которые еще недавно успешно использовались, сегодня уже не дают такой отдачи. Сегодня трудно развиваться, опираясь только на дешевую рабочую силу, низкие цены на сырье. И все это принципиально новая парадигма развития и для так называемых восточных драконов, которые последние 20 лет были локомотивами мирового экономического роста. А значит, это и проблема для глобальной экономики в целом. Россия, как и другие страны, ищет пути адаптации к новой экономической реальности. Нам удалось несколько оздоровить национальную экономику, слегка изменив ее текущее развитие и избавив от чрезмерной зависимости от сырьевого экспорта. Положительные сдвиги появились в прошлом году и в этом году. У нас, в общем-то, происходит неплохой восстановительный рост. Рассчитываем, что по итогам этого года он превысит 2%, рост ВВП. В чем смысл этой экономической политики? Прежде всего в том, что мы проводили антикризисную поддержку перспективных отраслей банковского сектора. Некоторые меры поддержки мы сохраняем и сейчас, так же, как сохраняем и плавающий валютный курс и режим инфляционного таргетирования. Жестко контролируется бюджетный дефицит, чтобы обеспечить сбалансированность бюджетной системы при относительно низких ценах на нефть, которые имеют для нашей экономики, конечно,
prices for oil are relatively low, and these prices are important for our economy. And of course, we try to improve business and investment environment. Structural disbalances are being eradicated, and we see good development of such economy. Sectors that are not related to oil and gas extraction, they gained competitive advantages on our domestic market. Now we witness trade cash surplus, and there are tendencies towards the growing international reserves. That's quite logical that the interest of foreign investors to Russian projects is growing. During the first half of this year, foreign direct investments have grown by more than 20%. We will try to preserve these positive tendencies, but that's not enough. As a whole world, we understand that the digital economy is our future. We face a very difficult and uncommon task. On the one hand, we have to give an impetus to the international cooperation in the area of digital technologies to encourage e-commerce and transborder business. On the other hand, we have to ensure national security and the protection of information, including of personal data. And finally, we have to establish transparent rules of the games. That's not easy to combine these two tasks. Russia, as most countries of the Asia-Pacific region, is ready to participate in this work. We have adopted a strategy on the digital community development and the program Digital Economy. Russia and ASEAN have been linked for 20 years with a special form of partnership It's a dialogue partnership and the common intention to give an impetus to mutually beneficial cooperation. I would like to remind you that the dialogue partnership between Russia and ASEAN is in force since July 1996. First of all, it's applied to the area of trade and investment, but I have to frankly say that so far our turnover is quite modest, especially amid our trade and economic ties with other countries of the region. And the situation in the area of investment is practically the same. We have to say that there are a lot of opportunities for that. Indeed, we have all necessary tools, including cooperation mechanism and policy documents. There is a very successful experience of the implementation of joint projects on the bilateral level, and we see a true interest of the business community of our countries for the cooperation in the area of energy transport, agriculture, satellite navigation, high technology, and financial services, so practically in all the important areas. And it is indeed logical, since today ASEAN, in terms of the economic growth, is the sixth economy in the world and the third economy in Asia. Russian entrepreneurs visit Southeast Asia, and they pay business visits there on a regular basis, and we expect to have reciprocal visits to our country. We'll be glad to see you in Russia. From 2014 up to 2017, complex Russian business missions were sent to Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, Cambodia, Brunei, Myanmar, and the Philippines. We are also ready to be involved in ASEAN initiatives on the development of energy transport and information infrastructure, and we make a special focus on development optimal transit itineraries. It's important for business. We develop our sea and airports in the Far East. We construct transporter oil and gas tubes. The main goal of all these efforts is, first of all, to make the transit between Asia and Europe as fast as it's possible and economically beneficial. And the second goal is to establish in our Far East a very powerful transport and industrial hub, which would satisfy the needs of the whole Asia-Pacific region. We try to establish good conditions for business, which correspond to the best world practice. And it's pleasant to state that these opportunities are already actively used by entrepreneurs from different countries of the Asia-Pacific region, including from the ASEAN countries, from China, from Japan, the Republic of Korea, and India. A lot of them come to Russia, to our Far East, in order to see how our development tools work and to participate in our investment forums. They take place in St. Petersburg and Sochi and in Vladivostok, and they find promising partners there. In the Far East, more than 500 joint investment projects have been launched. Recently, the Eastern Economic Forum in the Far East has taken place, and a lot of contracts have been signed, amounted to $50 billion. Capacious market, clear regulation, good infrastructure, those are the basic preconditions for successful business. That is the environment we've tried to develop within the new integration unit, Eurasian Economic Community, that has been established within our cooperation with 5 states. It's important that many Asian, Middle East companies have already appreciated that, as well as a good perspective for export to third countries. That is why, together with our partners within the Eurasian Economic Community, we're interested in the broadest cooperation with ASEAN countries on the basis of universal principles and norms of international trade. A year ago, the first full-fledged free trade agreement between Vietnam and the European Economic Community entered into force. Recently, negotiations on such an agreement between China and Eurozone have been concluded, and we discussed trade on a multilateral basis between ASEAN and the Eurasian Economic Communities, and we have negotiations with other ASEAN countries on a bilateral basis. Dear friends, due to geopolitical, historic and economic reasons, Russia is a part of Asia-Pacific region. We develop cooperation with all of the countries in this region, and our participation in solving regional problem is of utmost political importance for us. We attach special importance to this region. This year, ASEAN has celebrated 50 years. The history of its development convincingly proves that we can find mutually acceptable solutions to the most difficult problems despite all the differences. And in the modern world, such an experience is important for us. I sincerely congratulate all of you on this anniversary. I wish the participants to the forum interesting discussions, and I invite once again everyone to come to Russia. Thank you.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to thank His Excellency Prime Minister Medvedev for agreeing to questions from the floor. And the first question will be coming from an ASEAN back member, Arin Jira.
Mr. Prime Minister, my name is Arin Jira, ASEAN back from Thailand. And my question is, the Russian Federation has really successfully advanced accomplishments and competencies in airports and infrastructure, especially the subway systems in your country, very impressive. Now, what role can Russia do and help to support, promote, and fast-track the ASEAN Connectivity Master Plan in our area so that Russia and this region can be closer together? Thank you.
Спасибо большое за этот вопрос.
Thank you very much for this question.
Начал, по сути, ответ на него в своем вступительном слове.
In fact, I have already started responding to that in my introductory remarks. Of course, bearing in mind our enormous territory, the development of infrastructure is of utmost importance for Russia. We are ready to provide our infrastructural capability to all ASEAN countries, not only airports, but also sea terminals, railroads, highways, tubes, power lines, and what is very important now, in any countries, high-speed communication channels. All the things unite the country into a single economic space and ensures this connectivity you are referring to. It's also important for the ASEAN countries. That is why we believe that these capabilities can be applied bearing in mind our promising cooperation, especially since a number of structural projects have been implemented in this area. We are preparing for the World Cup, which will take place next year. By the way, I would like to use this opportunity to invite all those present in this room to see this competition which will take place in our country. But in general, we analyze in a broad way infrastructural projects, and we believe that there is a great development potential which lies within the Northeast Passage, where reconstruct Baikal-Amur Main Line and Trans-Siberian Railway that link Europe and Asia. We also develop international corridors. All these opportunities can be used by our ASEAN partners. We invite you to participate in this development, and of course it will largely depend on a proactive position of business. I'm talking about joint project. By the way, there are some projects of this kind. For example, our company Russian Railroads participates in the implementation of a large-scale project to develop in Indonesia, on the Kalimantan island, a complex infrastructure. We believe that is a good example of construction a railroad, and the coal terminal is also being constructed there. By the way, there are also examples of the reverse investment, of the investment into the Russian Federation, into its infrastructure. For example, Changi airports company from Singapore invest in the development of the avia hub in Vladivostok. So there are good examples of cooperation in the area of investment, and we want to see more examples of the kind, and we are ready to provide to our friends all our transport capabilities.
We'll have another question from ABAC chair from Indonesia, Pakananga.
Good morning, Prime Minister. I'm Ananga Rustiono from Indonesia. You have mentioned about the relationship between Russia and ASEAN. What is the strategic position of Russia regarding the ASEAN economic community? Thank you.
We believe that the ASEAN economic community, which was created, has been created recently, is a new and promising regional integration partner. I believe that in near future we will see in this region a very influential economic integration platform. Of course,
there are tens of challenges. We see gaps in social and economic development because there are different countries and they see different level of their economic potential. There are difficulties in logistics, in transportation, and there is instability in the markets, growth of protectionism. All these challenges, by all means, influence the economic community of ASEAN, but I have every confidence that they can be overcome, because we witness the will of the participants to the community to develop this economic integration. It is of importance to us because it is in this format, in such a format, we see development of cooperation between Russia and the ASEAN states. Although, for the moment, as I have already mentioned, we have not been able to tap fully the potential that we see. At least if we have a look at the trade between the Russian Federation and the ASEAN economic community, we take it as a whole, is rather modest if we think about the possibilities. It is about $15 billion a year, although in recent year we see that it rose by 33%, although the potential is much greater, potentially tens of times greater. And we have to do what we can to develop these relations and bring them to a new level. Just very recently, last year in May, we hosted a summit, Russia-ASEAN in Sochi. It was pivotal in our association with the ASEAN economies. I hope this will provide a good impetus of forming a strategic partnership between our country and the Eurasian Economic Community and the 10 of ASEAN economies. There we see the potential of our rapprochement.
Can we have the next question from Mokyao, ABAC chair of Myanmar?
Very good morning, Prime Minister. Again, thank you very, very much to come and meet ASEAN businesses. As you know, in business, everybody needs new markets to develop, and ASEAN is a region with the biggest, fastest growing economy, especially the small ASEAN countries like Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. These are the growing countries which will give markets to Russian companies. What, in your personal capacities, Prime Minister, why are you telling the Russian businessmen to come to ASEAN? How are you going to encourage them to come to ASEAN and look at our markets? I think they've done very well in Thailand. You see a lot of presence in Thailand. And what do you think about inviting us? How do you think you can make ASEAN business come and look at Russia? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I believe we are dealing with this very issue. I have visited all these three countries you have just mentioned. I have visited Laos and Myanmar in recent years. and our business missions have been sent there. But this is not enough, apparently. Companies from all ASEAN countries and from the three that you mentioned, as of today, our economic ties are not as active as they could be. I have looked it up. Last year, overall trade between the ASEAN countries was over $2,220 billion. Our trade relations are much more modest, and I'm talking about investment as well. So we are very interested in improving those ties. And within the line of the government of the Russian Federation, we provide such an impetus through this very type of contacts. But it is of importance that direct ties between representatives of business circles are developed as well. Very recently, this October, Russia-ASEAN action plan was agreed on science, technology and innovation, and I hope that the representatives of business circles will find their place there as well. We have agreed on the program of development of energy until 2020. We see an agreed document on agriculture and food security. We have a program of development of ties in tourism. I believe all of them will contribute in development of our relations. But relations between businesses themselves and the Russia-ASEAN Business Council that convened in Sochi and the Consultative Council of ASEAN and all other clubs and formats will be promoted by the government and by our representatives of our civil society, representatives of business society. I hope all of this will ultimately lead to activization of our negotiations on creation of new agreements on free trade. I would remind you that we have such an agreement signed with one ASEAN country, Vietnam, but we have been engaging multiple other countries, other states, and with ASEAN on the whole, and I hope we will see positive progress here that will ultimately benefit all representatives of business circles from the ASEAN countries and the three countries you mentioned specifically. And of course, we invite you, and we will continue sending business missions to ASEAN countries. Thank you.
Prime Minister, if you would indulge me with the last question. The theme of our conference and summit here is parting for change and creating prosperity for all. And many of the ASEAN countries, poverty is quite persistent. And I wanted to ask you, what is your roadmap in helping your small enterprises in Russia move up the value chain to aspire eventually to become a medium and large corporation? In the Philippines, 99.6% of the entire business community belong to the micro and small entrepreneurs. Could you share with us your own thoughts on how you are helping your small entrepreneurs in Russia?
Thank you. As I was speaking about prospects of cooperation with the ASEAN 10, I mentioned that these prospects are immense, but there are challenges. And one of them is what you have just mentioned, that is a gap in economic development of the ASEAN countries. There are more developed, not so very developed countries. There is a great poverty problem, lacking infrastructure, problems with education. Evidently, these are all global problems that ravage a lot of countries, sometimes even those that see greater level of development than those in some of ASEAN. I believe that we could provide input first and foremost with joint business initiatives, and those initiatives that we have been promoting in education, in humanitarian sphere, and just in the sphere of aid and assistance to ASEAN states. And all of this will be subject of consideration at tomorrow's meeting in the East Asian Summit. We will be discussing just the thing you just mentioned. If we talk about our expertise, indeed, very recently we adopted a set of measures aimed at supporting Russian small enterprises because we believe that mostly future belongs to small businesses. And frankly speaking, we do see problems in our country because we are not satisfied with the level of representation of small businesses in our industries, and we would believe that about 50 or 60% of our citizens could be participating in projects tied with small businesses. As of today, it is about 25 or 30%. They are engaged in one way or another with small businesses. So our task here is stimulate the development of small businesses in our country, and maybe this experience could be used in other states as well. We adopted a set of legal measures to promote development of small businesses. These are some tax exemptions dealing with providing some equipment, promoting investment projects, and we try to assist small businesses through foundations, state foundations that are created so that one could implement different projects in the small business area. Very recently, one such foundation went online. It comprises hundreds of thousands of small businesses, and I hope it will fully tap its potential. So our set of measures of supporting small businesses may be not unique. We follow the road that has already been chosen by other countries as well, but is of importance, we believe, that the government pays attention to such an issue. We do have very major state and private-owned companies, but it is of importance just as well that the government, the state, pays attention to development of small businesses, and we stand ready to share this experience with our friends in ASEAN.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's thank the Prime Minister for his insightful